back with another upgrade on the long-range AAP build. I'm not really sure what to call this series yet. Maybe Marksman, maybe Carbine, long-range, something, AAP Sniper. It doesn't look like it yet, but we're going to get there. So on today's video, we have from Skirm Shop USA, this is a sponsored video, Stalker, we have the stainless steel upgraded screw and bolt kit for the AAP-01. If you choose to pick these up, they gave me a discount code. You can use Stupid Airsoft at checkout, get 5% off your entire order. And if you choose to follow this entire upgrade series, the link in the description has all, and I mean all of the parts and upgrades I'm going to be putting into my AAP-01 if you want to choose to follow it. Now with these, again, I didn't choose these myself. They were kind enough to send these to me. I don't know the necessity of these upgrades. I do know, however, that these are higher grade, marine grade steel screws and bolts. And the idea behind these is I'm sure they're less likely to strip, of course, being that they are stronger screw parts. I know that the screws and stuff inside the AAP-01 are a little bit more likely to strip than these. So obviously, if you're someone like myself who's going to be constantly taking these pieces apart and whatnot, and teching and whatnot, upgrading, you name it, this could be a good upgrade for you. So maybe you want to check these out. Again, it's cheap, it's a quick upgrade, and it could increase the longevity and less pain in the butt of stripping a screw and having to remove it later on down the road. So let's just go ahead and get a little thumbnail there. And we're going to go ahead and upgrade all of these today and figure out where all these pieces go, because there's a lot of screws here. And you'll probably hear my cat meowing in the background because it's always hungry, and I feed her 3 times a day, and she's still always hungry. Cool. So in the lower, we have just the 1 screw, the 2, and the 3. And then the upper's got the majority of the screws. So we'll go ahead and take the lower screws apart first, and we'll figure out which ones go where. Just make sure we have the right bit for it. That is just a little too small. Just a little too large. What a pain in the butt. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Cool. So go ahead and unscrew this guy. Now, all I'm going to do, and I would definitely recommend putting some Loctite on these. I'm going to continue taking this apart and putting it back together over the next couple of videos, just because we're building this entire thing from the ground up. So I'm not going to Loctite anything just so it's easy to remove. But when I do the final install and it's ready to go as is, that is the day that I'm going to Loctite it. So you'll see me do that as well. All right, let's just find the 3 screws that match these exactly. It looks like we have... yeah, it's going to be these 2. 1 and 2. I believe, unless those are supposed to go... I don't know. Maybe they're supposed to go on the upper? Why don't we do the upper first? Maybe they don't send you the upgraded ones for the lower? Because now that I'm looking, I don't see which ones would go for the lower. Because there's not 3 of the same screw. So maybe these are all for the upper. Let's move to the upper. So first off, we have to get to these 2 screws. So we'll uninstall those. Yeah, I think those are supposed to go to these ones. Get that out. Come on. Come on, you got this. Now, some of these screws we're not going to wind up using because I'm upgrading the hop unit, but there are screws for the hop unit, I do know that. So go ahead and pull this guy out. So these 2 screws are going to be replaced by these 2 matching screws for sure. So go ahead and put those aside. Now we have to get to these smaller screws on the side of the hop unit, so we'll go ahead and figure out which ones those are and what they belong to. I believe I see which ones we need, so we'll pull these out. We'll just kind of put them aside so we know which ones go to which before we reinstall it. We'll do this entire front area, the barrel assembly, and the hop unit first. And then we'll do the blowback housing afterwards. So let's see if we can match these up. These look like the matchers to the outer barrel and inner barrel holding place. Now we have to get some screwdriver parts out. So I'll pull in a screwdriver. I think this will fit. And we'll start disassembling the hop unit. These are very, very small screws, so be careful not to lose these. There's going to be 4 of them that we'll have to uninstall. And there should be some nuts in there, so we're going to have to completely uninstall this. So when you do go to get these screws out, just make sure you twist the hop unit all the way so that you have a full clearance of that screw. You see that notch cut out? It'll allow you to get that screw out. These, more than anything, you'll be replacing all the time or taking out and putting back in all the time, because as your hop rubbers start to get worn out, you're going to have to replace those. So now let's figure out, these are really small. It's got to be these. And yeah, these are going to be an Allen key as opposed to the screwdriver head that are on the original. So we got to get 4 of those, which we do have to replace, which is awesome. 3 and 4 to match. Now, the entire hop assembly should pull apart. Yep, and you see the, that's really important. So when you're screwing in the lower screws to the inside of the housing, of the blowback housing, as well as the outer barrel into the hop unit, these nuts strip relatively frequently. At least I've found that over time, because I'm like a freaking gorilla. So you're going to take these nuts out, and the upgraded ones that come with it, which are right here, should increase the longevity and decrease the likelihood that we're going to strip those. So we're just going to start to reverse engineer everything now. So we'll drop those nuts into place. Just make sure they sit as low as they can. Perfect. And then we will take our barrel and hop assembly. We'll throw that back in with the notch in the right orientation. And then making sure that that little lever is in the same place it was when we took it apart. We'll just kind of smush it all back together nice and carefully. It shouldn't take any ridiculous force to get it all where it needs to be. Now we should be able to drop those upgraded screws into place on the hop unit. And I believe they're all the same length. We have to change that from the screwdriver head to a very small Allen key. I think that one's just a little too small. We'll try this one. Yeah, that's more like it. Right? Is it going in? Yeah, it's going in. Is that too small too? I think so. Is it too big? Let's go to the smaller one and see if that changes anything. Yeah, okay. The other one was too big. Now we'll get this guy. No screwing, nice and smooth. No problems there, obviously. They're just upgrade screws, and you don't have to over-tighten them. And we'll get this guy up on the front. Super cool. You literally can build an AAP now from the start. There's absolutely no reason that you even have to purchase an AAP if you want to fully upgrade it, because there's not a single part that you can't replace now. Perfect. And all of those pieces in the hop unit are done, I believe. We'll start to reassemble it up into the front housing now. So we'll pop our hop up unit into the housing like this. And you should see that screw hole down at the bottom. Now we have to replace those 2 screws on the side, which are a slightly larger Allen key. And I believe it's these guys. Yeah. Perfect. And then we'll just notch the other one on in. Again, screws in no problem, as expected. And now, I don't know if you could see that, but you see on the inside where that nut was that we put in on both sides? They're silver now. So that should be less likely to strip, which is absolutely huge. Okay. Now, before we reinstall this guy, we have to take apart the blowback housing and blowback unit, because there's some screws here that we're going to replace now. We are going to grab this guy, and we'll start by removing both the sight screws to release the bolt. So I believe both these sight screws get replaced, which are good because when replacing the bolt, you're taking the bolt out, which is something you're going to constantly do because you have to lubricate the AAP. You're going to want to lubricate it nice and clean it, obviously. These two screws now should be replaced. Let's not get them confused. I really like how they have these in a black, because obviously they're visual screws, so you'll see them. So we'll keep those on the left side. Let's make sure I use the right ones. They are stronger, so they're not going to lose the threading, but they will mold into the plastic housing, that black housing and the black sight much better. And they're actually more matte than the original screws, so it'll probably look even nicer on the back of these. But we're going to wind up covering it anyway with the carbine kit. Pull the sight off and take this guy apart. And I believe, yeah, okay, so we're switching out these guys, those nozzle screws, for an Allen key screw. So let's grab the screwdriver again. And we'll just attack number 1. And number 2. Okay. Yeah, you can see both of these match both of those. So let's just go ahead and screw those guys back in with an Allen key. I think it's a little bit smaller of an Allen key. That looks like the right one. Drop 1 in. Drop 2 in. And we'll screw them in evenly. Awesome. And then, of course, we put them on the left side. So we're going to drop the bolt back into place. And then the sight. And we'll get to those 2 new matte black screws. They are a little bit different, you can see. These guys are the new ones. And they seamlessly fit into the back. Also, just a tip, if you ever tighten these screws too much, it can tighten extra and push down on the plastic. And when you do over-tighten it, you do risk causing obstruction to the bolt. So just be careful. You want to make sure the bolt slides smoothly. You don't want to drive the screws too far in and then wind up causing obstruction to the bolt. And then lastly, we have to reinstall these 2 parts together. And we're going to get both those screws that screw into the nuts inside of the hop-up unit, those upgraded longer screws. So yeah, it looks like none of the screws are for the lower housing, so we're just going to put those back together afterwards. That was my mistake. It'd be cool if the, I mean, obviously you don't really need them because those screws don't really do a whole lot. You probably won't be taking them apart too much, but it'd be cool if they included them. It's literally just 3 more screws. Just finish the whole package, you know? Those are all screwed up in tight. And they are silver, but you won't see them once we install everything back together. I'm just going to put these 3 screws that we took out of the lower before back into place, because that was my mistake. Not sure why I thought those were going to have to come out. I personally prefer the lower housing to the AAP over most of the housings so far. I haven't tried any of the new CNC ones that are popping up, but way back when I used the, I think it was one of the original CTM tack ones, and I think it was the original CTM Tech upgraded one, and the screw at the bottom, at the base, it actually ripped off the plastic housing that it's screwed into, so that whole tube that the screw went into just snapped off completely while I was screwing it in, and I wasn't even screwing it that tight. I was just screwing, and like out of nowhere, it just never got tight. So I took it all apart, and it would just like destroyed the inside of the grip. So I'm a big fan of the stock housing. Cool. And it all works, obviously. They're just a bunch of screw replacements. But that should increase the longevity of the AAP-01 as I'm taking it apart, putting it back together and stuff, obviously, throughout the next couple of videos and even for maintenance. So that's cool. Cool little upgrade. Obviously, I'm really glad that somebody... it's literally like one of the few things that I didn't even think we would wind up having upgradable for the AAP-01, but that is it. There is literally not a single part in the AAP-01 that you cannot upgrade anymore. I do think that they should include the 3 screws for the base of the grip, but it's not a big deal. So for now, until next time on the upgrade series, as we start to get really far into this, thanks for watching. And thank you, Skirm Shop, for the sponsor.